friends. Welcome again to Art as an Expression of Prayer. Today we'll be meeting with our friend Andy and learning a little more about photography. Now, for many people, Andy Jones needs no introduction. He's incredibly talented, and many of his photos are featured in our marketing materials. Let's hear and see today how Andy shares with us photography, nature, and God.
I'm Andy Jones. I was a summer staffer back in the 90s, and I've been coming back, enjoying 1 week out of summer every year with my family ever since. I was asked to share some of my photography and some tips with you. Relating it to prayer, when I pray, I'm usually giving thanks. I'm usually trying to stay very centered and appreciate opportunities and ways that God has been involved in my life. And so I'm usually, for me, the most memorable prayers are I'm thanking. I'm always thanking. Try not to be wishing all the time. And one of the things with photography is I love having a camera with me at all times. Sometimes it's just my phone, sometimes it's a fancy DSLR. But one of the things I love is if I have my camera with me, I can stop and record. And it's that same sense of reflection of, here I am, I can't believe I'm here right now. I can't believe this. I need you to see this. I want the viewer to see this. And so a lot of times, all with my photography, it's about how do I make the viewer feel what I'm feeling when I'm looking at it. So when I'm praying, I'm giving thanks. I want to remember the occasion or the event or the situation, and I want to be thankful for it. In the same way, when I'm taking a picture, I want other people to share the feelings and recognize kind of what I got to experience. It doesn't matter what gear you have. It doesn't matter where you go. Sometimes it's easy to get jealous that somebody's got a fancier camera, or they've gone to more exotic locales, or get into more adventures, or things like that. And then none of that matters. What matters is the person telling the story, the person taking the picture. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about is how you can use different techniques and different tools and different thinking to influence how you tell a story. When we choose to bring people in or invite people in on a spiritual journey or share our own spiritual journey, it's not always best to be confrontational and tell people that they're wrong, tell people how to do things. It's best to show them something amazing, show and share. You're sharing your own personal experiences, hoping that the person you're talking to sees that and sees the wonderful experience you're having and the wonderful connection you're having, and that helps them make decisions to join you or go along on their spiritual path. So the technique here is looking at a scene and deciding, how can I share what I'm feeling? But don't just take a picture and keep moving. What is it about what I'm seeing that I want to share? So the first thing is the camera angle. So if I wanted to show off how tall this area, I cannot believe how tall these trees are, how big they are up in the air. I might take my camera down low and shoot upwards, and it shows the trees towering above you. If I'm trying to show an amazing view and show people how high up I am, I may hold the camera up a little bit higher and maybe include my feet in the picture as a reference, or use pano mode to take a long, wide picture and just show how big and expansive it is.
Thank you, Andy, for that tip. I really like that idea. So I actually found this dead tree, but it's kind of big, so I'm going to get down lower and see if I can really have the tree dominate the photo.
Tip number 2 is also getting a little creative, doing things that aren't part of your typical picture. I like to get things out of focus in the foreground. So like on this tree log that's fallen, I'll put my camera down so that there's something out of focus in the foreground, something out of focus in the background. And so your eye is going to immediately search for something in focus, and so it's going to move through the picture. One thing that Garrett actually showed me was here's the camera on your phone. It's up at the top. Without risking your equipment, you can go down to the water and hold the camera right above where the water is, and you take your picture, and then it'll turn right side up. It makes it look like you've literally come right out of the water.
So for the next tip, Andy said to kind of find a path or a log or something and try to focus it about halfway through. That way it helps the viewer's eye kind of travel through the image. So I found this bench here, and I just took a couple of these little objects I found on the ground, and I'm going to set it here and try to take one shooting along the bench, getting a little lower.
Tip number 3. If I'm going on a trip and I'm going to have a lot of pictures, and they're from all over the place, inside, outside, daytime, nighttime, up a hill, in a valley, I want something that kind of brings them all together. I'm also looking for a small challenge or a problem to figure out. One of the things I love to do is when I'm out and about doing things, I'm usually exploring. So I have a toy astronaut, this little astronaut guy, and what I do is I bring him with me on trips. And the challenge now is I can't just take a picture and keep walking. I have to set him up someplace so that he's in the picture. So I have to look for a flat surface that he can stand on. I have to make sure that he's in focus. Do I maybe photograph him as if he's looking at the big area? You don't even need a toy. But if you have a common object like a ball, a hat, I've seen people do that where they put their hat down everywhere they go. And so it's that one common object that puts all your pictures together. It doesn't matter if they're dark or light or daytime or indoors or outdoors. If there's that one common object throughout all your photos, it brings them all together. And if you're going on a vacation or a road trip or just hanging around your neighborhood, it's really fun to have one common object that kind of traveled with you.
So for the next tip, Andy had that little toy astronaut he was taking around camp and setting it up, creating an image sequence. My object that I chose was a Manidokin hat, so I'm going to start setting it up around camp and taking a image sequence. I'll just put it up.
Fun trick with an object is something you can shoot through. So I have a toilet paper tube, and one of the fun things is you get the camera and you hold the toilet paper tube right up to the lens and you take pictures, and so now the pictures have an interesting frame around them. It's kind of abstract, but you're really focusing on something. When you're taking a picture of something, if you've put the circle on it, you've really kind of zeroed in. You're showing the viewer something very specific. So these are plentiful and free, kind of fun to carry around.
So for the next tip, Andy used a toilet paper tube that he got from a toilet paper roll, but I didn't have that on me, so I went and found a leaf, and I'm going to try to roll it, making that tube shape, and try to focus on these rocks right here to get a cool image. So I'm gonna get my phone, open the camera.
Prism, you can get this at any gift shop, at any museum once they're open or online. The thing about a prism is that it distorts the light, but it's not hiding anything. It's just distorting it. And so a lot of times I like to hold the prism up. This is the type of thing where you hold it in the sunlight, you get a rainbow. I like to hold it up right to the camera lens and move it around and see the distortion. And one of the reasons, why would you do distortion? Sometimes it's just fun. You just want to have some fun with it. But maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe it's all new and it took you a while to kind of let the scene develop in your head or kind of figure things out. So the prism is a fun way of distorting everything so that your viewer has to spend a little bit more time, like a puzzle, kind of looking at the elements and they go, oh, I see leaves, I see bark, this person's in the woods. But you don't need a prism if you don't have one. You can get a plastic cup. And also hold that up. And the plastic cup, again, you want to distort but not hide. So the toilet paper tube hid things and only allowed you to see one thing, whereas holding up a prism or just a simple plastic cup or even a Ziploc bag. You can draw with a marker on a Ziploc bag and then hold that up. and it will distort. And it's perfectly fine to want to distort what you're seeing to influence how the viewer is looking at something. You're kind of making it a little bit of a puzzle that they got to figure out. Why does it look this way? What am I looking at? Oh, cool. This is a stream. This is a turtle. This is just tree bark. So that's also a fun project to do.
So for the next tip, I really do like distorting the image. So this is a little piece of trash I found with a little bit of reflective inside. So I'm gonna put this underneath the camera and see if I can get a cool shot of all this bright green. So these are some great tips that Andy shared with us and that I got to try out for getting a unique photo. So please try out these tips when you're taking photos and share them to our social media. Also, if you kind of think and get creative and think of other ways that you can create some cool, unique photos, then write them in the comments so that way other people can try them and we can all see our photos.
Hey, Garrett.
Hey.
And I'm so glad you could come out today and do some of these practices that Andy shared. Is there any particular one that you feel like really spoke to your own sense spiritually or just helped you to pray more?
Yeah, so I really connected with the bench photo I did, which was focusing and kind of leading the viewer's eye to the middle of the bench. And I really connected with that because I liked how it was blurry in the front of the bench and then focused right in the middle and then was blurry beyond that point again. Because it reminds me it's like God's leading me as I'm leading the viewer's eye through the path or the bench. And kind of what's in focus is like the now, what's clear, what you're doing. And I kind of like the future being blurry and seeing where he's going to lead me.
That's beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, and I think that's a great example to share with our campers too, of just the many ways that nature speaks to us and that the things you learned from Andy can help grow your spirituality as well. So thank you, Garrett. Andy, thank you so much for all of your tips and your passion for camp. Before we close, let's have a prayer together. God, thank you for the many ways that you lead us in our journeys, through the things that are not clear into new spaces of clarity. Thank you for the gifts of nature all around us and the ways that we can learn to share your story and our story with you in many ways. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
See you next week.